Thanks for tuning in to this broadcast of The Resilient Advisor. My name is Jay Coulter, and joining me today is Rick Kent, who is the CEO and founder of Merit Advisors and a founding member of the Mentoro Group, a corporate financial wellness provider. I'm excited to bring Rick on this program for a couple of reasons. One, to educate us on how corporate wellness can benefit not only employees of corporations, but help advisors grow their business. Plus, at the end, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which are OKRs for driving your business, because Rick at his firm, Merit Advisors, have implemented OKRs successfully and seen that help grow their firm. Rick, thanks for coming on the broadcast.
Oh, Jay, just great to be with you this morning.
All right, let's get started. Corporate financial wellness. Tell us, let's start with 101.
Yeah.
Walk us through exactly what it is and who needs to be thinking about it.
Yeah, Jay, if I could, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history here to talk about how we ended up with the 401k market in the United States. So the Revenue Act was passed actually in 1978. When that Revenue Act was passed in 1978, went into effect in January of 1980. So we're talking 40 years ago, right? This whole industry got born then. When that Revenue Act was passed in 1978, it was to help people that had stock options or bonuses to defer part of their compensation. That's why it was passed. It was never meant to be the industry that it is today. But what happened, if you think back 40 years ago, think about the number of pension plans that were in place and how participants really could retire with a relatively support from Social Security, a pension from their company, which made up, a good portion of what they needed for retirement. Now, something happened in 1980 when, after that Revenue Act was passed, corporations who were providing those pension plans suddenly said, "This is great. This is fantastic. I would much rather my employees save for their own retirement instead of me as a company providing a pension for them. This is great for me as a company. I really like this new tax law a lot."
Right? Helps the bottom line.
Yeah. So this is
those quarterly numbers a lot easier.
So 50% or more of the corporation said, "Hey, this is a great thing. Let's get this 401k started." So they started it. And so that's when it was all born. And so here's the problem now where we're at today, again, 40 years ago. The problem is that this was great for corporations, but it hasn't turned out so well really for participants. So here's where the retirement voucher started coming into the picture. They started coming into the corporation and said, "Hey, we'll help you set up your 401k plan." What is that? So we're going to get it going. What do you have to do? Well, you have to have the right funds. We got to talk about fees. Oh, you have a fiduciary liability. We need to help you with that. We want to reduce your liability as a fiduciary. So these meetings begin to take place in the boardroom, Jay. And all this discussion about how to set up this plan and all that. There's one important thing, though, that got left out of all those discussions, Jay. And that was, how are we really going to help participants? All we've told them so far is that they're going to save on their own. Do they know how to do that? Do they understand the basics? Do they understand that, they should focus on getting out of debt? Should they understand that they should have an emergency fund? Can you imagine if people stuck to the basics of financial planning and had 3 months of emergency fund right now, Jay? Our country would be in a very different place. If people had emergency funds, but we haven't really instilled that in our participants, in our basic planning. So this has all been good for corporations, not so good for participants. So to answer your question, now 40 years later, we're saying, hey, people are stressed out because they haven't saved enough for retirement. They really never got on board in the beginning when they should have and started putting money away. And it's very challenging, for participants in plans. And so financial wellness is a new concept where companies are starting to say, hey, our participants are the ones who really need help here. And it's costing us money because they're not getting help. About 35% of them are struggling with debt. Then think about how much stress that causes. And corporations are now saying, hey, we need to start helping our employees get out of debt. We need to help our employees learn how this responsibility of saving for their own retirement really works. And so they're starting to invest in financial wellness programs that are actually focused on those things to make a more productive, help their employees be more productive and more efficient. That's really a concept that's coming now when we talk about financial wellness.
And Rick, so this is going to show my ignorance about this space. So it was my understanding that if an advisor sold a retirement plan to a company, they had a certain obligation from a fiduciary standpoint to do advisor education meetings. But I was always under the impression that those were very limited in the actual advice that they could offer. In fact, they really couldn't even give investment advice. How do you? What's the bridge between that responsibility and corporate financial wellness?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, there's different types of retirement advisors. You got the 321, the 338. The 338 is a full fiduciary giving advice to the plan. And, there's certain things that they can do to help participants. But quite frankly, if you're a retirement advisor and you're helping a corporation and you're there and you're helping them with their plan, let's say they have 1,000 employees, for example. As a retirement advisor, are you going to be able to go help all those participants? No. And certainly, here's another problem, Jay. So let's say you did want to help those other participants. Sometimes a retirement advisor will say, yeah, well, I like to work with the C-suite, those people that have a little bit more money to invest, and I'll help them. That still leaves 85, 90% of the people not getting help. So to me, true financial wellness is a program that helps everyone from the boardroom to the mailroom, right? They all do need help. And I'm going to say, Jay, that our industry really hasn't come up with anything yet to really help those participants. Retirement advisors get paid on the assets off the plan. Wealth managers make money when they do rollovers. But what's missing in our industry is people really helping these participants. And good financial wellness programs are going to be born now to actually help those participants.
So Rick, how long have these programs been around?
Not that long. So if you go back 5 years ago, I never in our industry, I never even heard the term financial wellness. Who's even heard it? What are you talking about, financial wellness? It doesn't mean anything. It's beginning. I'd say over the past 5 or 6 years, it's been in our industry. It's been spoke about at the conferences. There's been information pulled together on that. There's been statistics. There's been research is beginning to take place. And there's a good number, Jay, today, especially your larger companies, your Fortune 500 companies, that see this is something that they should invest in. It's a benefit. It should be a benefit, just like healthcare benefit, disability, or any other benefit. It should be another benefit that corporations are offering to their participants. And here's where we missed it. We said, hey, we're gonna set them up a 401k plan, and that's going to solve their problem. Jay, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. We set up a 401k plan, but they're still hurting. They need a 401k plan, but they need so much more than a 401k plan. And that's where financial wellness comes into play.
And so let's say I'm a medium-sized company. I have 15,000 employees, and I say, Rick, I would love for Mentoro to come in and implement a financial wellness program. What does that process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here, a good financial wellness company, and what Mentoro would do is that the first thing they do is they do an assessment of that company and that company's employees. And through the assessment, we figure out, what are the pain points? Every company is a little bit different, right? You have manufacturing companies, you have healthcare companies, you have trucking companies, you have all kinds of companies out there. So the first question is, what are the pain points with your employees and your company? And the only way to do that is to actually do an assessment of that. So the first thing we do is we run people through a portal. We have them answer questions. And we find out from an employee standpoint, what are their concerns? We take this empirical data back to the corporation and say, this is what your employees are saying. We're showing them information they've never seen before. because their HR department said, well, we think, we're doing this program, we're doing that program, we're offering this, we're offering that. But they never really listened to the participants and what they thought. We get the information back from the participants, Jay. Then we sat down with the corporation, the powers that be, the C-suite people, and we say in the HR department, and we say, these seem to be some problems your company is facing. Let's work together to focus on the top priorities and see if we can start solving some problems here, see if we can start moving the needle here.
Okay. And what are some of the more common top priorities you've seen taking companies through this process?
So we work with many different corporations and thousands of participants. Some common things that we see is that about 35% of the working population for all corporations, approximately 35%, are really struggling with debt. It's a problem. It's an issue. And, it's causing stress on them. The last thing that they're going to want to tell their employer is that they're struggling with debt. They're never going to have that conversation.
Right.
But through our assessment and the questions that we ask, we can give that number back to the company and say, here's your number for your employees that are struggling with debt. Now, once we get that information, we worked with a company recently. I'm giving you another example. We worked with a company recently that to work for this company, there's quite a bit of training and education that has to take place. So this company, when we did the survey, their employees were struggling with student debt. It's a problem. It's a big issue. And so we worked with that company and said, let's come up with some solutions to help your participants deal with this student debt. And there's different types of programs. There's ways to refinance, just like you refinance a house. Sometimes certain situations, things can be forgiven with student debt. So we really move the needle a lot to help their employees get out of student debt. The more we can help them get out of debt, the more efficient they become, the more productive they become as an employee. So that's just an example. We really survey what's going on with the company, and every company is different. And then we focus on that, and we put together the plan for the company to help their participants.
And does that plan that you're building in the third step, so you assess, you report back, and then you build a plan, does that look like financial literacy education modules, and how is it delivered?
Exactly. So the first thing too, and Jay, I have to say this too, as you and I are talking about financial wellness, and we said, hey, nobody even talked about it 5 or 6 years ago. I have to tell you this, because it's getting popular. Now everybody's jumping onto that phrase. So they're saying, oh, my company offers financial wellness. If you look at all the major record keepers right now, I won't mention any names, but some of the larger record keepers, Jay, every one of them has a financial wellness program now.
Imagine that.
They all have one. Why? Because the companies are saying, we like this concept of you coming in and helping our participants. And so we like financial wellness. So now everybody offers it. The truth is, very few people offer any authentic financial wellness at all. So to get back to your question, what has to happen once we understand the problem and we work with the company, we get the company to prioritize with us. Here's the top 3 issues or top 4 issues of your company. Which ones do you want to start with? Which ones do you want us to focus on? Of course, they're going to focus on the top priorities of where they want to get help, right? Mm-hmm. So what we do then is very important. What we deliver is what we call collaborative financial wellness. First of all, you have to have boots on the ground. You have to have human interaction. Those people offering financial wellness through technology only, not going to work. It's just simply not going to work. How do you get people to use technology they don't understand? Number one. But so you have to have boots on the ground. You have to have people there, human beings that are interacting with the participants. Secondly, you do have to have cutting edge technology. It has to be great technology. It has to be gamified, has to be fun, and somebody has to be there. The human has to be there to help them interface with that. And third, it's behavioral finance. You have to understand, Jay, why people don't take action. Going in and doing an enrollment meeting, educating people on asset allocation doesn't do anything. It just doesn't do anything. People will not make decisions, Jay. It's called inertia. We're more comfortable by not doing anything. So to get me to do, to get people to do things is very, very difficult. But so understanding behavioral finance, that's the third component of collaborative financial wellness. It's understanding behavior so that you can change behavior. And it's about cutting edge technology. And it's about boots on the ground, having a call center that's really going to address these problems. You can't just expect people to watch a video.
Yeah. So in this day and age of coronavirus and home quarantine, this is a first for me on the Resilient Advisor. My doorbell rang twice while you were giving that answer. I apologize if that came through the audio. I love your description, though, of corporate financial wellness and what it looks like when it is authentic.
Yes.
Just to get a little bit into the weeds on that, do the participants have a portal that they're able to go in and get these modules that's customized to them? And then the call center, what type of actions are the call center delivering back?
Yeah. So first of all, they have a portal and they have their own information in this portal. And it's a great thing for them because they can, once they log in, we make it so simple for them to log in. We enter their name in ahead of time. It matches up with their name. So it's very private, all secure. And then from there, Jay, they can start building a budget on their own. They have a chat feature in the portal. They can talk to a mentor at any time. This is not a financial advisor they're talking to. This is a mentor, an educator. So they can go in, they can do work on their own. They can set goals inside this portal. For example, they may say, hey, I understand, yes, I really should have an emergency fund. And I have to admit, I really don't have one right now. The first thing I need to do maybe is to get out of debt. So we'll say, hey, we want to show you something here. You can load up all your debts inside your portal. This portal has got all kinds of information in it, data, a library. So if you want to get out of debt, let's list your debts in here. It's going to show you which ones to pay off first. Hey, let's see what happens if we change that payment from $10 to $15 a month, how much quicker you'll get out of debt. So if that's the goal, all that information's in there. They want to set up a budget, that's in there. If they want to aggregate all their accounts from their investment accounts, bank accounts, that's in there. And a lot of these tools are available for them to use on their own personally, or they can say, you know what, I'd like to invite some help. I don't know how to set up all these things or go through all this. Can I get with a mentor that can take me through these processes so I can get the help that I need? So everything that they're going to need, whether it's setting up a budget, planning to get out of debt, figuring out how much they should be saving for retirement, that actually jumps up on their screen all the time. It says, hey, you've got whatever, $50,000 in your 401k plan. If you were to retire today, this is how much monthly income you have. They look at that and go, oh, that's not a lot of monthly income. What happens if I start increasing my contributions from 4% or 6%? How does that change that? They get to see all those things real time, and they have access to a mentor that helps them, a real person that not only can help them through the portal, but also with the financial wellness program, they're coming to that company on a regular basis on site, a physical person, so that those people can say, hey, I met with you online. This sounds great. Can you help me figure this thing out? And could you show me a little bit more how this portal works? So yeah, it works really well for them.
So contrast the difference between this mentor and a traditional financial planner that sits inside of an investment firm.
Yeah. So the companies that, when companies are looking for authentic financial wellness, they're really wanting to make sure that they're getting help from people that they're not biased. Right. So they want to make sure that the people that they're exposing their participants to are not going to be taken advantage of in any way. It's all about really helping those participants. So the program that Mentoro has put together is pretty cool. It's they have mentors and qualified people. They've had backgrounds in the financial services industry. They understand, the industry, but they don't give advice to people. They don't become their advisor. So Mentoro is there to help the participants. Now, what happens out of that, Jay, is that people say, hey, I need a financial advisor, right? I need somebody that can give me advice, that can help. And, I'm looking for advice. I want to pay for advice. That's what financial advisors do. So Mentoro refers out when they find somebody in the participants like that, they refer that out to the advisor. So it's a great thing. If you're a retirement advisor and you're thinking about getting in the wealth management business, Mentoro is the answer there, because they prefer the business out when people need help. And that allows the retirement advisor to kind of say, okay, I really just want to talk to people with 200 million or 250 million and above, or 500 million and above. They can work with Mentoro like that. A wealth manager, if they help us get in with the company, Mentoro in with a company, they can get referrals from that, and it's more efficient for them. So, yeah.
So for specifics, if a financial advisor wanted to partner with Mentoro and go to, their handful of business owner clients and say, hey, here's an organization that you should consider to drive, financial wellness inside your organization, that advisor would then be in a position to receive referrals from what Mentoro does inside of the organization. Is my understanding correct?
You got it. You got it. And, it's a win-win situation, right? Because Mentoro is there to make sure all the participants are being helped. That's our focus. That's what we're all about. Advisors have to get paid, of course, and they need to work with people that have money to invest. I will tell you too, Jay, you talked about statistics. What we found so far is when we go into companies and start helping all these employees, what we find is about 10% of them are really what an advisor would say is a qualified lead, somebody they would want to talk to. About 90% of them, they just need help. They need basic help.
Mm-hmm.
What Mentoro is able to do is separate those and say, here's the qualifieds, here's the people that just need help.
So who pays Mentoro?
That's really a good question. And this is something I would like for your listeners to know. So the company, it ends up paying Mentoro, not the retirement advisor. So there's no cost to a retirement advisor to work with Mentoro. The other thing that I want you to know, Jay, is that there's multiple ways that Mentoro gets paid. A lot of the 401k plans today have ERISA budgets. In the ERISA budget, you have forfeitures. People work for the company and then they leave the company before they're fully invested. That money builds up inside the plan. Mentoro can get paid from that ERISA budget. So in some cases, there's no cost at all to the company. There's no cost to the retirement advisor. So what a great relationship. Also, I would tell you, this is very important. And for any of your listeners, Jay, that are in the retirement side of the business, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
remember,
that's a win-win-win right there, Rick.
It's a great win-win. But here's something else very important. So the retirement advisor, remember, this whole industry started 40 years ago. And it's the advisors have been talking about the 3S for a long time. Hey, we're going to come in and be your fiduciary. We're going to take all these responsibilities, keep you out of trouble. We got to get the fees right. We got to get the funds and give people choices. That's what they've been talking about. But I'm going to tell you, the business is becoming more commoditized. Everything changes, as we know. Look at the change we've been through with COVID-19. Going forward, retirement advisors are going to have to offer real value to participants. Real value to participants. If they don't, they're not going to be able to compete in the marketplace. And I'm going to tell you that there's a pretty heavy investment. When we talk about helping all participants, and we really believe in this, Jay, I'm going to tell you that we see a crisis in America. 40 years ago, the company said, hey, we're going to set a 401k plan. Participants are going to save for their own retirement. That sounded good, like a good concept. In reality, it hasn't worked. Less than 50% of participants in 401k plans have saved more than $10,000. Tell me where that's going to lead us as an industry.
That's right.
And so these people, the workplace, Jay, is the last great hope to turn around and help these participants to get them in a position where they can retire. It's also going to help corporations because it's costing them a lot of money when their employees aren't efficient, when their employees are in debt, when their employees are dealing with student loans. And here's a big one. All those people who thought they were going to retire when they turned 60 years old or 62 or whenever they thought they were going to retire, what's happening, Jay, is they're getting to that age and they're looking at their retirement account. They're saying, this doesn't add up. I don't have money to retire. I want to retire. So guess where the cost comes in there? It goes back to the company. On average, it costs the company about $50,000 a year to keep on that older employee who's at the high end of his pay scale. He's at the high end cost for healthcare cost. A 20-year-old or 30-year-old could probably do twice as much work as he could do. The company can't let him go. He's a protected class, so it's costing the company a lot of money. So companies are starting to say, hey, either we're going to deal with this on the front end and make sure that we have proper turnover and our participants are getting the help they need, or we're going to pay for it on the back end. And they're starting to see that now.
So Rick, my final question along the lines of financial wellness, given what we're going through right now with this pandemic, how has that changed the importance of it, of a company like Mentoro is more important than ever, but how has it changed the deliverable to the company?
Yeah. So Jay, we all now live in the Zoom world, right? So never before has there been so many people connecting online. So what Mentoro has done is pivoted, and where a big part of what they do is boots on the ground, people there in the company, but also they connect virtually, and they're able to deliver their services connecting with people virtually. So that's been ramped up in a big way. The way that Mentoro has pivoted and shifted is that companies are now dealing with problems they weren't dealing with before. So as the workforce starts to come back into play, things are being changed. I don't know if you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's lately, but there's these little things on you're 10 feet apart. There's this tape. You have to stand on the tape and not move any closer. That concept is being moved into corporate America. So as corporate America is opening back up, already space planners are planning the space out so people can be more separated. So Mentoro is also there saying, hey, your people before were pretty stressed out. Now they're really stressed out, and they have to adapt, and they have to figure out all these things and coming back into the workforce. They have questions. They're concerned about what's happened to the stock market, and there's just a lot going on. So Mentoro's there again to assess the situation, to adapt to what the real problems are, and to offer services and solutions to those problems.
Excellent. Rick, we have already gone 10 minutes over our time slot, and we didn't even touch OKRs.
Oh my gosh.
Why don't we do another broadcast just on OKRs? Because I think you and I could probably do 2 hours on the power of OKRs at some point. But the reason we went long is this was incredibly information packed, actionable, and I now know more about the space. So for podcast listeners who have not seen the URL scrolling across the screen, where can they find out more information about Mentoro and the value proposition?
Yeah, and again, retirement advisors, there's a lot to talk about there, and wealth managers as well. So it's just mentorogroup.com, Mentoro group.com, mentorogroup.com.
Excellent. Rick, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Jay, thank you so much. This has been great.